Diego hated the graveyard shift. The Hotel Eldridge was eerie at night. Tonight he was handed the key to room 303. Emergency maintenance, the manager had said. Just stay the night, make sure nothing's broken. Diego stepped inside, unease growing. The furniture was dark wood, carved with grotesque faces. And then he saw it, the mirror, an enormous gilded monstrosity. He took a hesitant step forward. The floorboards groaned under his weight. He couldn't shake the feeling of danger. Just make sure nothing's broken. The first hour passed slowly, agonizingly. Diego checked the plumbing, tested the lights, examined the threadbare carpet for... he wasn't sure what. Every creak of the building, every sigh of the wind outside the shuttered windows sent shivers down his spine. He tried to ignore the growing feeling of dread in the pit of his stomach, the sense of being watched. Then he heard it, a soft, scratching sound coming from the old wardrobe in the corner. He froze, listening intently. The scratching stopped. He let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Just the wind, he told himself, just the old building settling. He turned back to his inspection, his heart pounding in his chest. The scratching came again, louder this time, insistent. It was definitely coming from the wardrobe. Hesitantly, Diego approached it, each step heavy and reluctant. He reached out a trembling hand towards the ornate handle. As his fingers brushed against the cold metal, the scratching abruptly stopped. A heavy silence descended upon the room, broken only by the frantic beating of his own heart. He waited, but there was no further sound. He pulled the doors open. The wardrobe was empty. He turned away from the wardrobe, his mind racing. He needed to get out of this room. He needed fresh air, light, anything but this suffocating darkness and the oppressive weight of unseen eyes upon him. As he turned, he caught a movement in the mirror. His breath caught in his throat. The mirror, once merely reflecting the gloom of the room, was now clouded over with a thick layer of condensation. He could see vague shapes swirling in the mist, twisting and turning like phantoms in the night. He took a step closer, mesmerized and terrified in equal measure. As he watched, the condensation began to clear, the swirling shapes resolving into letters, into words. They were scrawled across the surface in what appeared to be a thick, viscous liquid, the sight sending a chill down his spine. The words were stark, chilling in their simplicity. "You're already here." The words seemed to pulse, to vibrate with a power that went beyond mere ink on glass. He couldn't tear his gaze away. It was as if the mirror itself was alive, aware of his presence. He felt a cold dread creep into his heart. He had to get out, but his feet seemed rooted to the spot. He could only stare as the reflection began to change. His own image twisted, becoming something monstrous. The eyes widened, becoming bottomless pits of darkness. A cruel smile stretched across its face. Pale skeletal hands reached out from the mirror. They scrabbled at the glass, sending shivers down his spine. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. He was paralyzed with terror. The hands found purchase on the frame, pulling. The figure in the mirror strained, its eyes locked onto his. He felt a pull, an irresistible force dragging him towards the mirror. A scream finally ripped from his throat, a desperate, futile plea lost in the echoing vastness of the room. His hand shot out, grasping for anything to stop his inexorable slide towards the mirror. But there was nothing. He was dragged forward, his body contorting in ways that should have been impossible, his bones snapping, his flesh tearing, and then silence. The mirror returned to its pristine state, reflecting the dimly lit room as if nothing had happened. The scratching from the wardrobe ceased. The only sound was the soft sigh of the wind outside. A key rattled in the lock, the door creaking open. A young man, his face fresh and unmarked by the horrors of the night, stepped into the room. He looked around, his gaze falling upon the mirror. He smiled, a chillingly familiar smile, and straightened his uniform. "Emergency maintenance," he said to the empty room, his voice echoing strangely in the silence. "Just making sure nothing's broken."